Are you crazy? Or are you just mad?
Hello. Welcome to the Mad Musicians Against Depression podcast, where we discuss the latest news, research and hot topics surrounding mental health. I'm Thomas Maher, and I'm joined in studio by my beautiful co-host, award-winning singer, songwriter and presenter, Indiraa.
Hello, folks, and welcome to episode 29 of the Mad Pod podcast. It's me, Thomas Maher. I'm the singular host on this week's show because obviously, as you know, you've been listening in. Indiraa is in rehab. Yes, she's in rehab. She's on holiday for 4 weeks, and obviously we're very excited to when she gets back, and we're looking forward to that, aren't we, everybody? Thank you all for your lovely, kind messages of support and asking when she'll be back. Well, you know what? She's in studio. Indiraa!
Hello,
back.
everybody.
She's back. The black is back in black.
I'm black and black.
She escaped. She hasn't been released or discharged. She's escaped from
No,
rehab.
I haven't escaped. I've come in for this morning to do the podcast, and I'm going back.
She's going back, folks, because she has to officially be discharged, which has been done on a Monday, so they allowed her to come out home on a Saturday, come in tonight for preps, and she's going to be discharged on Monday, and then she's going to be back. But she's here in studio on the seat to terrorise us all again.
Yeah, and so tomorrow is a big day because I earn my graduation, where they give me a coin for AA of having completed 28 nights in rehab, 1 full month. And I can only say, for anyone struggling with addictions, I think I caught mine very early. And so it's been amazing. But no matter what part of the ladder you're on, please think about it. It is amazing.
It is amazing. It's also amazing that you're here back in the hot seat again, because people missed you, I missed you, and the show was certainly not the same without you. So what we're going to do today is we're going to dedicate the whole show to talk about your experience in rehab. So, because obviously a lot of people out there will be interested to know about that. So let's start from the very beginning. So it was almost a month ago. Was it October when you obviously self-admitted into rehab? So tell me, what started the process of you deciding to go into rehab?
So what happened is I had been drinking in the evenings, a bottle of wine, and from 2 little bottles it became 3 little bottles, and then the last four days I drank every day in the evening, the same quantity, which was a lot for my body because, as you know, I'm on antidepressants.
That's correct.
And the few days before that, I drank at lunchtime a mini bottle and convinced myself it was just 175 ml, so it's not so bad. And so I drank a little less at night, thinking, oh, now it's okay. But it wasn't okay because it was escalating because the alcohol wasn't metabolizing out of my body. And it was mixing with the antidepressant. On the Sunday night, I had a complete meltdown where I became from Indiraa to Donald Trump in 24 minutes. And I went mental. Anything that came into my head, I said. Anything that went into my head, I said.
A new song.
And everybody looked at me. I wish she was dead. It was really bad because I verbally attacked Paul, my best friend, Tom, the other half of my brain, and my husband, Rajiv. I verbally attacked them and blamed them for everything that went wrong in my life. And I have to say I was so bad that I held on to my husband and said, please get me into rehab tomorrow because I will change my mind. And it was late in the night. Luckily, we knew 2 people in the Priory. One was my therapist and another my very close friend. And they pulled strings, and my psychiatrist sent a letter first thing in the morning, Monday morning. And Owen Bowden-Jones, who's now the head of the Priory in Roehampton, So that set the wheels in motion, and I was there. I was told at 12 o'clock, you have to be here by 2. So I threw in a load of useless clothes into my bag.
You took Paul's clothes, did you?
No, I did. It was ridiculous. I mean, the stuff I took there, I actually looked like a
hobo.
I was about to say it. I didn't want it to sound so bad, but I looked honestly like a hobo. And when I walked in, and of course the night's activity, the night before the drink, showed in every part of my face, my body language. And the first 3 days, well, I'll let Tom comment on that, because I left from here looking like a deer in headlights.
You talking the first 3 days you were in rehab?
No, when I left here.
Oh, before you left?
No, just as I was leaving.
Well, obviously you were in a mess. I mean, that period before you left to go to rehab.
Yeah, the morning and the evening.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you'd reached that place in your head. What we had spoke up many times in the show about reaching rock bottom. There's always a point or a state of mind that you will reach or need to reach before you kind of saying, I can't go on with this anymore, I can't do this, or I need help. And yours was to reach out and say, I need help. You hit that point, and it comes eventually if you don't deal with the problems. So you would hit that point, and I mean, you were in a mess for weeks building up to that. But I guess those 3 days before you actually that you took that ultimate fall, you were in a really bad place, and I hadn't seen you like that probably for years and years when you had your first period in rehab. So you went back. We went back in time.
4 years.
4 years, exactly. So, yeah. I mean, we knew it was coming. We tried to deal with it, and you tried to deal with it in different ways. But, ultimately, it ended up you actually having that crash and you making a decision for yourself.
I'm very grateful I had the crash.
Yeah, exactly, because you need the crash. And I always say the crash will either do one or two things. It'll make you acknowledge you need the problem and you reach out for help, or you won't acknowledge, you won't seek help, and you can go the other way where you could do self-harm or ultimately suicide.
Give up.
Exactly. And that's obviously how it plays out. Of course, obviously, we're very grateful that you took the steps to acknowledge you had that problem. I think you always acknowledged you had a problem, but not fully accepted it. And
I always thought I was strong enough.
Exactly. And I tell you, there's nobody, I don't know anyone. I think there may be exceptions to the rule, but I've never met anyone who can deal with all those kind of problems by themselves. Because unless you're enlightened, and there are some people in the world who are like, you're talking about the monks, Buddhist monks and Thailand, the Shaolin monks, they have a certain control over their mindset and mind that normal people don't have or never achieve. So we're talking about that kind of level of strength in your mind to be able to deal with things like that. So without that level of control, self-control, you do need help. You need outside help, support within family, medication, different. But the real strength, which you know now, is actually taking that step to acknowledge your problem and reach out for help. That is the real strength. Because a lot of people are afraid to do that. They don't. It's almost like there's a stigma attached to it, and they believe they're better off gone without.
Well, first you have to admit you really are powerless to your addiction.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. I mean, I didn't believe in the 12 steps, this, that. And the last time I went into rehab, it was not. I will try and explain. Yesterday, my friends, the twins, asked me, they were sitting in the kitchen and they said, can we talk to you? And I said, of course. And they said, why was it different to when you went into Castle Craig? And I said, in Castle Craig, for a start, I was 4 years younger, and I had been off alcohol during my 60th birthday for 2 months, 3 months. I'd done bits and pieces. And then when you do that, when you try and deprive yourself and then go back, I went into Castle Craig, which was for a start in January of 2020. And it was freezing cold in Scotland. And as you all know, I'm a brown thing. Yeah, the Indian, whatever bird, that's a brown thing. So I was suffering from the time we got off the flight, and Tom was suffering from the time we got off the flight, because there was turbulence, and he'd been throwing all over the place, and he was thrown from top of the plane to the bottom of the plane. He landed up in the undercarriage,
I think. One of the worst
I think.
flights ever. Terrible.
And then it was a 2-hour drive, maybe, from Edinburgh, was it? Up into the mountains.
No, it was about 45-minute drive.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, 45
Seemed like
it would seem like an eternity. It was, but
and
it was
then you go up
minutes.
into the mountains, which didn't help his stomach either, dare I say it. And my father died 3 days into it. And so I was already being treated different, like a person in bereavement. So everything was, leave her alone, she's in bereavement, And then my therapist we did 12 steps in 1 month there. And here I've done 2 steps, and tomorrow I deliver my 3rd step.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think when everyone does the 12 steps in therapy, they don't believe in it completely. It's only when you start going to every meeting and every meeting and every meeting, and then you start thinking, well, whatever it is, it's working. I don't have to believe it's the 12 steps. I can believe it's a higher power. It can be, I believe it's the power within me. I can believe it's the power in, the podcast, whatever you want to believe, whatever it is, it seems to click if it clicks.
Exactly.
And there is a high percentage of people when they relapse, they have a higher percentage of recovering after rehab. It's 66%.
That's high.
So that's a pretty high percentage. Mm-hmm. So I was in a way quite happy about that. And I think also I was in a very bad place the first time round because I was suffering from guilt over my father's death, not being there, moving out of India. There were a lot of things that they had to deal with before they could deal with my addiction.
Yeah.
So when I came back, they call it white knuckling or dry drunks, when you think about alcohol but you don't drink. Mm-hmm. And you hold on to the chair and you go white knuckled. Mm-hmm. And you say, I'm not going to drink, not going to drink, not going to drink. It was also coming up to the pandemic, and I had Paul, Tom, and Rajiv and everyone at home. I had everyone with me, and I was so happy that I had everyone, that I felt warm, loved, and everything. And I lasted 3.5 years.
Yeah.
In that pink cloud of euphoria, everything's perfect. I'm happy, everything. I'm going to be happy. Everyone's with me. Then bang, reality comes in. Everyone goes back to work. Life goes on. And you suddenly think, I'm back. Alone? Oh, well, if I have a drink, maybe I'll feel a little calmer, or I won't feel so sad. And then it escalates, and then you go back to black, basically. Mm. And with alcoholism or any form of drugs, alcohol being the 3rd most deadly drug, it's like an elevator, and you hit ground floor, and then there's only one way you can get better, and that's going up.
Yeah.
And if you don't get off that elevator, you're going to be digging your own grave from that elevator down from ground floor. And I don't know, I'm glad I don't have any thoughts of being anywhere but alive with my family now. First 3 days.
Take you back to the white knuckling you described
white
there.
Knuckling.
So, did you experience that when you came out of Castle Craig?
Every single day.
So you had it for every single day, right? So
I fought it for 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm. But you've learned that only terminology this time around in the Priory.
Yeah.
So you didn't understand what
I didn't. It's called dry drunks, and I didn't even know what it is. All I knew is I'm stuck with this thought in my head for the rest of my life. But I'm so tough. I'm so strong. I'm me. I'm Indiraa. I can do this.
So having experienced it now, knowing what you experienced, what it was, the condition. Obviously, it was the DTs.
I know what to put in place.
So you experienced that, but did they tell you that, or did they put anything in place, aftercare, for you to deal with that?
The thing is, the aftercare system was too far away, and I was not willing to stay 3 months somewhere in Scotland and go back for aftercare. I was not willing to do it.
What was the aftercare?
You can go back and so on. But I did have my therapist speaking to me in aftercare once a month, once a week.
How did that help the white knuckling?
Well, it didn't, because I didn't understand white knuckling.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to understand.
I just kept pretending to myself that I was amazingly strong. And I was fooling myself and genuinely fooling myself. I didn't realize how much I was putting into my effort till we came out of lockdown. We were going out. I'd go to a restaurant, see a cold glass of Chardonnay being poured for somebody and, the little cold on the side of it. And I used to think... And then I went to Milan for Milan Fashion Week when Fila, my husband's company, was tying up with Fendi. And I remember it so clearly. We walked in and they said, "Welcome, congratulations," and handed me a glass of champagne.
Right.
And Rajiv looked at me and I took the biggest gulp ever. And I put the glass down after drinking practically half the glass in one gulp.
Yeah.
And I said, "Thank you." And I said, "I only took a sip, Raj." And I remember it so clearly. I mean, talk of fooling myself. Mm-hmm. That was it. I got the taste.
Yeah.
And I remember coming back and white knuckling again and and then everywhere we went. And the funny thing is, when I came out of Castle Craig, first I lose my dad, then I come out, and a month later we travel to India for a big fat Indian wedding where, Tom, you were there. Mm-hmm. And as you know, there was champagne flowing. We flew from Bombay to Jaipur. There was stuff going on in Jaipur. There was stuff going on in Bombay.
It was a Hollywood, Bollywood style wedding.
Yeah. And I was white knuckling through the whole thing and on so much medication. I was like a zombie at the wedding.
I remember.
And trying to be happy for my nephew and not knowing what was happening, because there was a hum in the background of everything. And I think that was probably unraveling me already, but I didn't know.
Well, you were stuck in the face of temptation.
And the temptation was bad enough. And I took a walk around the swimming pool in Jaipur with Seb. And he asked me, he said, "How are you feeling?" I said, like I'm going to have to fight for the rest of my life. And he said, Mama B, you got this." And I said, "Yes, I have." And I again put on my Indiraa face and came back to all the celebrations. And it was the last day, that amazing party outdoors near the pool.
Yeah.
And came back, and that was that. Then when I went into rehab, after I fell off the wagon 3.5 years later, it was little bit. And then you start saying, "I don't want to go for a coffee when I get my nails done. Let's just go for lunch." And you pick a restaurant so you can order a glass of wine. Mm-hmm. You go to a pub because you can order a glass of wine. And everyone else will try and be polite and have a coffee, but you'll order a glass of wine. And then you get bold and you say, "Medium, please." First time. And then you reach a point where under your breath you go, "Large." And they say, "Excuse me?" And you say, "Large." And then you just stop thinking what others think, because your need has become more important. And I realized one thing, which my therapist said she's going to use in future, is I gave up everything for one thing. Instead, now I've given up one thing to have everything.
Yeah.
And when I said this to my therapist, she said, "I'm going to use that." So that's funny. The first 3 days in the Priory was living hell for me. I'm not going to lie. They give you medication. In my case, I went in 0 alcohol in me. My blood pressure, all my parameters were perfect. No shakes, no nothing. So I was not given any anti-drinking medication. So I went straight in.
No Librium, no nothing.
No Librium. Everyone else is on Librium for 5 days, and they go from, I think, like the highest dose down to 60, 40, then 20, from what I gather. Mm-hmm. And they're complete messes as well with the Librium and stuff. But I had to go straight in, and I remember not wanting to go to my room because I was scared of my room. It was almost like the cocaine bug. You think you're going to be eaten up by your room.
Well, it wasn't your room, was it?
Yeah, exactly.
It was just somewhere you were holed up.
I was terrified of being with myself. And one thing you learn over 4 weeks is you like being with yourself. And in the evenings, I'd sit in the group and I'd come back to my room. I'd do my crossword puzzles. I'd do all sorts of mental games and books. And Rajiv bought me a book called Puzzles for the Retired. That was quite funny.
Yeah.
And after the first 3 days of hell, I put up a calendar in my room and started striking days off. And suddenly, when people would say, oh, the first week's hard, the second week gets better, then it just goes so quick. I thought, oh yeah, easy for you to say, bitch. Like, you're not in my position.
Yeah.
But believe me, it has gone so fast. And the first Sunday when Tom arrived and Paul and Raj, I don't think I'd cried so much in my life in a long time. The joy of seeing love right in front of me was just incredibly beautiful. The second week, they brought one of my dogs with me. They brought Raphael.
The king.
He ran into my arms. The structure there is difficult. You're on a time schedule. If you're 1 minute late, they don't let you in.
So take us through the first week. So you had to do all the documentation. You arrived there on a Monday.
Yeah.
And obviously
It's a lot.
It took quite a few bit of time to get through all the documentation. You had to fill out forms, sign them, this, that. How long did that take?
You sit with your therapist. You sit with your therapist and he talks you through everything. And it's not long. It takes about an hour and then you get in. And the first thing they tell you is get straight in because I wasn't on medication.
Yeah.
And I learned on the second day I was 43 seconds late for one of the sessions and they wouldn't let me in. And I went to my room and I cried and cried and cried. I felt I'd failed. And my dad being a pilot, it was estimated time of departure is 800 hours and you have to be in the car 2 minutes early or 5 minutes early. And here I'd missed. And I was under so much pressure that dad is angry, everyone's angry. I'm 48 seconds or 45 seconds
So what was
late.
the reason for that? Is that because it was a discipline? They're trying to discipline patients?
You miss out. If you don't come here on time, you miss out. Anyway, they give you a lot of projects. And there's a lot of diversification. You have group therapy, you have individual therapy.
So take us through the structure. Like, how were the weeks structured? Did you have something every day beyond the second?
So 8 o'clock you have
the
breakfast.
First week, what do you have for the first week? Take us through a normal day.
It's like you go straight into the schedules of what the others have already on their second week, third week, fourth week, whatever. So they have things like 3 circles presentation and they'll present your addictions, your triggers, and where you want to be, 3 circles, things like that. Some people got really weird and started doing 3 China dolls, Russian dolls or traffic lights. And they said, just keep it simple.
Yeah.
3 circles.
So you're part of a group.
Yeah, and you get projects.
You get projects.
So 3 circles may go to one person.
So you're not assigned an individual therapist just for you. So you
have a therapist. So each person has their own therapist.
Okay.
And I had Patrick, who's really, really fun. He was an alcoholic and a drug addict for years and years and years, came from a very wealthy family.
Yeah.
And he's a legend because he's seen it all. He's fallen off the wagon 7 times or something. And now he's a therapist, 30 years sober or whatever. He's 73 or 4. He was the only person older than me.
All right.
So all the therapists otherwise were younger than me, which was funny as well. And you get your own psychiatrist. And I had Dr. Brenner, who was amazing. But he was on leave when I went in. So I had Dr. Rozanovich.
Okay.
And when I walked in, he said, sit down and blah, blah. So he said, so what do you do? And I said, I'm a singer-songwriter and I do podcasts and I do a radio show. Oh, what is your name? I said, Pratima Batra. So how do you spell that? I said, oh, my music name. So he put in Lady Indiraa and he started playing Dust. And I was sitting very uncomfortably while he turned to the video and was watching the video. And I didn't know whether to laugh or to just walk out. And then he turned, you're very interesting. That's all he said. He didn't say anything else. I am not your doctor. I'm not your psychiatrist. You'll be reporting to Brenner, blah, blah, blah. So that was done. And then I went back. And then you have different things that happen to you when you're there.
So okay, now we know that you are assigned a therapist and a psychiatrist. So take us through, like, from a morning to an evening.
Okay.
What happens?
8 o'clock breakfast, 9 o'clock meditation. And we had a thing that we had on our TV, which we can only put on for things like meditation and stuff. And at 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night. And that too, it's censored programs. Mm-hmm. They have TVs in the rooms. They come and take the remote out and plug it out. Because we were in ATP addicts. So there were 8 or 9 of us when I was there.
Okay.
So, which was big. By the end of the first week, there was 4 because people had left and finished theirs. Then,
and also, there's obviously you get walkouts. Was there any walkouts in the first week?
Yes, there were a lot of walkouts. 2 walkouts, and then in the second week, Tuesday, Wednesday, the rest walked out, and there were 2 people, Victor and I, 2 people left in the room. Absolutely mortified that we were just 2 people going to be in the whole. There are different groups on the floor, in the ward, and ours is ATP. We're not allowed to talk to general patients. We're not allowed to talk to the psych patients. Only ATP talks to ATP. Then there's a group of nurses. There's a group of. It's amazing. The setup is amazing. So 8 o'clock is breakfast, and it's very substantial. You have to eat. And I, not being a breakfast person, was absolutely mortified. I started with eating 2 poached eggs and a little baked beans. By the end of it, I was eating a big bowl of porridge, 2 poached eggs, and then twice a week they had a fry up. I didn't have that. Every day there was rabbit.
Did it flip? Did you actually then look forward to your breakfast in the morning?
Yeah, because the dinner is at 5.
Mm-hmm. So you're going to be hungry. You said
and gap. So 5 to 8 in the morning is literally intermittent fasting. Mm-hmm. You're just dying for your breakfast.
Yeah.
But I did stay away from carbs the whole time because I wasn't allowed to exercise. They saw me walking up and down the second day and they said, you're addicted to exercise and you'll go back, you'll over-exercise, you could go into taking steroids and so we can't take the risk. And I said, I would never take steroids, never taken steroids in my life. They said, you have an addictive personality, you are not allowed to exercise, end of. So when people went out to smoke, which is in every break, after every session, they get 15 minutes. I'd go and stand where the smoke was not blowing towards me because I don't smoke, but I'd stand with them and talk. So I did go with them. So you're not allowed any chocolates, any snacks, any sweets, anything. There's a cafeteria, a little room where we can get coffees, teas, but all of us share it, including the other patients, and they have all sorts of goodies in the fridge. They have chocolate biscuits, and we're not allowed to touch anything, although I think some of the girls did nick some.
So people can be wondering, so if there's goodies in the fridge, so who is allowed to have it?
The general patients and the psych patients and the nurses and all of that.
Okay.
And they stock it. They stock it twice a week, and you have to just sit there. There's 2 fridges full.
So what are the general patients? Obviously for our listeners.
So the general patients, they come in, and to me, I think it's like a holiday. I think Amy Winehouse was one of the generals there. She started in ATP, and I think she moved out, if I'm not mistaken.
So is that a walk-in patient?
So they come in. They're there for as long as they need to be there, according to them, and they can leave when they want.
Because it's voluntary.
So then they pay per day, but they can stay, but they can go home if they want to. They can have different types of visitors, different timings.
So they've got more privileges, right?
Oh yeah, they can eat what they want when they want. They can order in Deliveroo, and all this.
So they're bound by different protocols. So
totally
these
different.
are general patients. So you were obviously voluntary as well. So what's the difference? How are you categorized?
ATP.
So what is ATP?
Addict treatment, addiction treatment, ATP.
Person?
I don't know what it is.
So you're there. So you got categorized as ATP. Then you've got the general admission. People just walk in because you're also a walk-in as well. So I'm trying to understand what's the differences because you're both voluntary.
No, so you can register as an ATP or as a general patient. The ATP patients have this structured thing that you cannot move out of the structure.
So it's more structured.
The generals
more rules,
have
more protocols.
Group meetings. They have they're mixed. They're what do you call it? Ours was the grey room where we had to meet and go for lunch, go for dinner, everything. So they have a different room with TV.
So general admission are basically just coming in for the therapy, senior psychiatrists and therapists.
They can stay if they want.
But
so they
pay
pay basically a lot less because it's not structured. It doesn't have we have different therapists for different things.
Yeah, that's
right
what I'm saying.
through.
So it's more structured. Okay. So
it's very structured. So, but some of the interesting things is we have a thing called psychotherapy, and we had a therapist who had been in Tibet and a monk for 7-8 years in Tibet and looked like a Tibetan monk but dressed like normally
civil.
To come in. And he did things like psychotherapy. And one of the things he did was we had to walk in a certain way outdoors. And we had 2 points. And we had to pick things outdoors that that meant something to us. And in the end, we come in and tell the story. So I picked the slope going upwards underneath an oak tree. So I had to start at the... so I started at the oak tree walking upwards. And the end of it was, to me, was the priory. And it was a wall. So when I told the story, I said, well, I'm walking upwards because my journey is uphill. The oak tree is my home. And my husband who shelters all of us. I saw a tree stump, and I called it Tom because he always says he has stumpy legs, which he doesn't. So the tree stump was Tom, which was near the oak tree. There was a park bench, and that was my best friend Paul. Old friends sit on the park bench like bookends.
Yeah.
And there was an acorn, and the acorn was my journey, which grew into the oak tree, hopefully. I saw a feather, which was my mother wanting freedom, but she was a broken-winged bird. I then picked up, and there was a plane flying over, which was my dad. And then I picked up a twig that was branched into two, and there was a bud on the end. And I broke the other one off, and I said, it's a new thing for me. It's spring.
New start.
Yeah. So that was my new start. And that was my story. So psychotherapy was amazing.
Psychotherapy is fantastic, yeah. If you get someone who really knows what to do.
We had to pick cards and tell stories. Fantastic. It was amazing. And then we had art therapy, where I realized I can only draw eyeliner. Beyond that, I am...
Or compare. You're very good at comparisons as well.
Draw comparisons.
Okay.
But yeah... it was really fun twice a week. But then there was equine therapy as well, where you go to some stables, and you have to, that was a bit weird, but you have to relate to the activity as the horse. Like if one horse is in one way and the other, one is your addiction, one is this, and how you bring them together. And the last one was quite scary because they blindfolded me.
Yeah.
And I had to take a horse by the lead. They put the lead rope in my hand, and they'd put an obstacle course.
Trust, isn't it?
And then you lead the horse through it, and your peers tell you where the other horses, 2 peers tell you to keep away from your addiction. And here you're leading you and your addiction through. Yeah, that's your triggers.
Yes,
is the other one, and then one person leads you through, and that's your conscience and your trusted ones. So you put your trust in that person. And it actually is really difficult stepping over poles and this and that. And then you reach where you have to reach. That was really interesting. that's our day out. So we get 2 hours out in a van and everything. That was quite fun.
So how often did you do that?
Once a week.
It was once a week, okay.
And art was 45 minutes twice a week, these were all the fun things. On Saturdays, we get to go for a walk in the park and we keep trying to work out what the code of the gate is.
All right.
But there's strict rules for, you're talking about ATP. The ATP weren't allowed to go past a certain area, even on the driveway. Whereas the others could walk in and out and do what they want.
Yeah.
We couldn't come to the front entrance unless it was visitors week, weekend. And only Sundays we had 2 to 6 was visitors, and becomes sort of 2 to 5 because we have to go and eat at 5.
Yeah.
But
So there was clear differences in the obviously.
Oh, absolutely. And then when the visitors leave, you have to have a urine test and a breathalyzer, and then the next morning they give you a urine test again in case you smuggle something in. And,
yeah.
And
so was there any involuntary admissions there, or did you come across any? Do you know if there is?
Most of them were brought in by their families. I think I'm the only one who walked in on my own. Everyone was dragged in by their families.
But do you know if there's any involuntary, like being sectioned and sent up by the NHS? Or?
That's a different. The NHS. Floor was different. They had a different floor. They had a different dining area. They had everything.
I was wondering, because you can still be voluntary through the NHS, but with section, people who've been sectioned, then they're involuntary.
I think I have no idea. I know that you can get sectioned if things go.
I'm just wondering, because it's been private, I'm just wondering, do they actually deal with people who've been sectioned?
They do.
Okay.
And it's on another level of
wing.
the place. We don't actually get access to any of the patients. We don't even see them.
Well, of course, it would need to be. That's what I'm wondering, because we have a different wing for that.
And then every evening, you finish dinner and then you have like our family time. That's our group. And we'd watch, game shows like... building the word kind of thing, things like that. And then there was this new thing, something that they watched. But we're not allowed to watch the news and stuff like that in case you hear about things that are going to not help your...
Well, the whole point of it is to be disengaged from the outside world.
Society. You can't have magazines or anything in the room. Things like that. Then after that, there's a greenhouse that's converted into a room.
Yeah.
And they have outside meetings. So you have Alcoholics Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. What else? Gamblers, Narcotics, SLA, which is Sex, Love, Addiction. All kinds of different meetings every day, 1 hour or 1.5 hours, where people come from outside and they chair, and you have a chair, you have the shares, all like normal meetings.
Yeah.
And it's compulsory for us. We also have a thing called peer shares, where people who've been clean for a year can come and tell you their experiences.
Yeah.
And I've put myself down as a peer sharer in a year's time.
Very good.
Yeah. And it gives you a goal.
Of course.
And we learn to put boundaries in. And one of the boundaries I put in, which came as a big shock to the therapist, is I've asked my family to buy a breathalyzer and keep it in the house. So if ever I go out alone, I'll be breathalyzed when I come home. And Tom is really excited, by the way.
Yes, I am.
You're dying to give me a breathalyzer.
I can't wait. In fact, as soon as the show finishes, I'm going to do one.
Do one,
just for no reason at all. I'm just going to do it. It's there, is it? Has it arrived?
It's arriving today.
Yeah, good. Arriving today. Hopefully it'll arrive by the time we finish the show. So you've been through now, obviously, your induction week. So tell us about how you felt you made progress from week to week, because obviously you had a routine, you were structured from Monday to pretty much Monday to Friday, let's say, because Saturday and Sunday was kind of your days where there wasn't much happening, was there? It was kind of a down day. So how did you feel from the first week to the second week to the third week? How did you feel you advanced in what you thought you were learning, the knowledge, and how you think it maybe impacted you?
I think everything teaches you every day. Your viewpoint changes, but I think a lot depends on who you are, whether you want to take it. You can say, oh my God, we've got Dorrit today, it's developmental, and background and so on, addressing your childhood, blah, blah, blah. Or you can say, oh, fuck, it's Dorrit today. I really don't need this shit. Go back into my mum and dad and all that. Why do I have to do this? And for me, and I found most of them really enjoyed 3 hours with Dorrit.
Dorrit is
a lady. And
therapist.
And
what does she specialize in?
In developmental. She does a thing called Pierre Melody, who's a famous developmental psychologist who writes books and so on. So she met Pierre Melody. She's gone to all her courses. And she's incredibly insightful. And we were talking about something, and I said, oh yeah, when I was in school in England, and there was a lot of racism in the 60s, and we're not allowed to use isms. So I said there was a lot of discrimination in the 60s, and I went into class the first day, and the teacher was very upset that I didn't know what abacus was, because I did mental arithmetic, because I was come from India. We love our numbers.
But we met one in Spain, remember?
What? An abacus?
In the gym.
Oh, yes.
That's another story, but anyway, go on.
That it was, we had to add and multiply, and I was doing it all in my head, and she got annoyed that I didn't. And I said, I don't understand what you want me to do. Others are not even doing their homework. They're playing on beads. I was a bit confused. I was 7,
Yeah.
And so she said, where's your calculation? And I pointed to my head, and she thought I was trying to say I'm a genius. Yeah. So from then on, she used to pick on me, and she'd say, stand back, you smell of curry.
Oh, dear.
And so I used to tell Mum, I'm not eating Indian food. My teacher laughs at me. And when I mentioned this story, she said, that's child abuse.
It is, absolutely it is.
And she said,
absolutely.
Today, that would be referred to the principle as child abuse.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do that.
100%.
So those are things I got aware of, a lot of things. And we had different therapists teaching us different things. So by the end of it, the first week, you're kind of getting the hang of it, but you're not quite sure. Then they tell you to do your first step by the second week, and the second step by the third week.
What's the first step?
You admit to yourself that you're powerless to your addiction. And so, you work, and it's like the 12-step program.
So acknowledgement, you're acknowledging it.
It's questions and answers, and you have to admit to yourself and all the instances on certain things. You have to read the 12-step to understand what I'm talking about. And you have to admit that I did this and this and this, and I said this to my husband, I lied. And then on the second step, I put a bottle of wine at the bottom of the vegetable compartment, and my son Tom would pick it up and put it on the top to tell me, I know it's here. And a side of me would get angry with him. Today, I'm grateful. So that's how your mindset changes.
That's a complete flip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I asked myself, was I angry? No, I was ashamed. So there's also a mindset where you start thinking. And I started thinking a lot.
It's introspection.
Yeah. And I spent 1 hour in the evenings on introspection, meditation, and, my list of thanking for all of it, your affirmations and your... So I had lists of all the things I was grateful for in life. And in the morning, I started with a prayer, which I never used to do. I started with a prayer, I formulated a prayer of thanking, apologizing for my mistakes. And I dug up things from God knows where. And then what I want. And I'd said, I want sobriety and the life of the people around me. Longevity, obviously, and please don't let them suffer ever, and don't let them suffer at my cost. Things like that.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Your whole thing changes, everything. And I haven't come out the Virgin Mary. I'm still the same person, but I have a strength in me that I believe in.
Yeah.
And I'm going to finish the 12 steps with my my therapist, who actually happened to work in the Priory.
Yeah.
And when she'd meet me, she'd just wave and say, I'm so happy, I'm so happy, I'm so happy. I'm so happy, I'm so happy. And I learned to say to people, when they'd say, I love you, I said, I don't love you. I like you very much, I probably will learn to care for you over time. And this is how I've always felt, but I've never had the guts to say it to people.
Yeah.
And I probably will get to care for you over a period of time very much. But love is a huge word.
But of course, it loses value when people just swing it around like that.
Yeah, and like my friend's daughter say, bye, Indiraa, I love you. And I don't know what to say.
You're thinking inside, well, no, you don't. I know you don't.
And I just say, too, or things like that. And I've learned I can't say it to certain people. They may be even related to me and I can't. So I say, look after yourself.
Exactly. That's the right response,
so
isn't
you
it?
sidestep it.
Yes.
And I realized I did all this in my book of things that worry me and how I want to put my boundaries and how I'm going to get my... it's almost like an exit route.
Yeah.
So that's how I put it, like an exit route out of the situation.
Sure.
So I've kind of learned that sort of thing as well. So I've learned what I call my tools, and they had like 3 circles. They had a thing called a box, and you make a box. You go to the kitchens and ask them for one, and then you wrap it up, and then you put your addictions on one side, your triggers on one side, the people you've hurt and what you've done, and then inside what you want to be. And you start opening each paper of the inside. They write on the outside, and then you have these folded papers, and you open it and tell them what it is, which is quite nice as well.
Yeah.
That's one project they make you do. They make you do various projects. In my case, they made me do my parting project was, am I loved? And I am loved, and I am cared for, and I had to get messages. I had to write what I thought of myself, and it was all question and answers. And then I had to get a letter from Rajiv, from Tom, and from Paul saying what I felt, what they thought about me as a person. And the things they wrote was just amazing. It was so gratifying to know how they felt about me. And that was quite nice. But they have the things that hit you bad is you have to read out your steps where the things you've done to hurt people, and that's hard. And then they have what's called a consequence letter, where my husband had to write the consequences of my addiction and how it affected the family. And you have to be brutally honest when you write your consequence letter. And they get someone to read it out to you. And it's addressed to me saying, you did this and you did that. And that was, that was the hardest hour of my whole time there. And then I had to reply to each and every one of those things and what I felt and what I want to do and how I can make up for it in some way in the future. That's the consequence letter. That was one thing that's hard. There's all sorts of... there's a conjoint where your husband comes in and you sit with him in front of your therapist and you thrash it out.
Right.
Where you say, don't treat me like a baby, I don't like it.
Yeah.
And you do. And you tell other people to do stuff for me as if I'm not capable. And it was very nice because now I know I can drive because I'm sober.
Yeah.
And I came home and there was a car with a big red ribbon on it, which I'm waiting to drive with you and Raj and Paul.
Oh, we will.
Together.
Absolutely.
I haven't driven it yet. So he bought me a car as a present to say that I'm sober now and I can drive myself, which is nice. And we did talk about what he wanted from me, and not to spread myself so thin with everybody and try and please everyone, but to focus on myself.
Absolutely.
So that was basically it. And
so you've learned, I mean, in the short space of time, a month is a month, but they haven't crammed things in. They've let you digest things in the right way. Whereas in Castlecraig, I think they try to cram things
a lot
into
12 steps in 1 month.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that.
I've just done 2.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how it should be. You need to be able to absorb and digest these things properly.
The steps actually go into, you say, give me 3 examples of times when you made an absolute fool of yourself and let your family and friends down in public.
Yeah.
And you have to write it down.
Yeah.
3 times when you blacked out and couldn't remember anything.
Because if you can acknowledge everything like that, that is one of the most important keys to recovery and healing, basically. You can't heal unless you acknowledge everything that you've done, or anything about yourself, and being able to do that and take accountability for it. I find taking accountability is actually very refreshing, because you know you've got a strength inside you to be able to take accountability and not be afraid to say, okay, I did that, sorry, I did that.
Yeah.
The more you do it, the more powerful you feel.
Yeah.
You feel empowered.
I realize like what a wimp I am at times, because like a simple thing, like they said, what changes do you want to make in yourself? I said, when I cook dinner, I cook 10 dishes. And that's because I say, okay, Rajiv likes okra, but Paul likes cauliflower, so I need to make cauliflower. But then, Tom likes this and this and this, and I've made fish, but Richard's going to come over. It's Tuesday. Richard doesn't eat fish, so I need to make chicken. So I'll make fish and chicken. But then today I've made red meat. Tom doesn't like red meat, so I'm going to make chicken for Tom. And by the end of it, there's 10 things on the table. And I have to say, okay, today's menu is this. If you're not happy with it, bring something in.
Exactly.
Something like that.
I've always said it, for me, it's focus on one thing and you get to enjoy one thing. But when there's too many things on the table, you've too much choice. You don't really get to enjoy any one particular thing because there's too much choice. And I agree with you. Just keep simplistic.
And I'd get stressed, and I'd stress, and then I'd drink, and then I couldn't enjoy the meal because I wasn't present. I'd sit there, but I couldn't eat, and I wasn't present, and I couldn't watch you people enjoy it.
Yeah.
I couldn't, because I couldn't remember whether you enjoyed it or not.
And look at how privileged everyone is to be able to eat a fine meal, sit down at a table and enjoy a meal. Lots of people around the world don't get to have the opportunity to have that. So we're very privileged to be able to do things like that. So yes, absolutely. Just focusing on one particular, maybe one dish or something like that, and let everybody enjoy that, I think is the right way to do it, personally speaking.
And if I have one thing to tell anyone who's an alcohol dependent, heading towards alcoholism, you can call yourself what you want, it's alcoholism if you can't say no. Make your house dry.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing for me to have done, because I want everyone to enjoy themselves. But I had my friends over for dinner last night, and I served juices. Some of them didn't like it because they'd have preferred a beer, but
too bad.
Tough.
Too bad. They got a lovely dinner instead, didn't they?
Yep.
That's it. I mean, it's your house, your rules, and people need to respect that. It's a boundary. It's one of those boundaries you were talking about.
Yeah.
And it's for you. So people come around, they're coming to see you, they're coming to enjoy the lovely food you prepare.
Yeah.
And alcohol should never be an issue or consideration in anyone's mind. It's not about that.
Absolutely. And they can want, when we go out, by all means, everyone order what you want. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Because I'm living in the real world. So if I go out with Tom and Paul and Rajiv, I'm living in the real world. I can't tell them don't order a drink. That's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's really not okay, because then I'm putting my restrictions on someone else. It's not okay. So if you want, when we go to our Good Earth dinners, you want a glass of wine, order your glass of wine. But I've already told them at Good Earth, do not offer me alcohol, offer the rest.
Yeah.
So those are things I've put in place.
Absolutely. That's the right thing. You're obviously taking measures to protect yourself from it.
And I mean, yesterday I just joked with one of them and said, aren't you glad I didn't serve you any beer? You'd have been too full to enjoy all the food.
Yeah, good.
So I made a joke of it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way to do it. That is the way to do it. So that was a really interesting conversation. We've learned a lot about what you've been through in those almost 4 weeks now. So you've got to go back in this afternoon, because you've got to be there for check out tomorrow, discharge. And then that's going to be it. You have completed the thing, officially completed your 4 weeks.
And I have to deliver my step 3 today. And then they have you have to thank each therapist and say a few lines to each therapist and each person in your group. And our group is now 5, and we have a really good time.
So is that step 3? That's part of step 3. So is it?
No, this is the leaving ceremony.
Oh, that's the leaving ceremony. So look, just quickly, there are 12 steps in it. Do you know, is each step got a heading, like a title?
Yeah. So the 12th step is the AA 12 step that was formulated in 1940s, but it is they've made variations where you do the 12 steps, where it's more user friendly for 2024. So basically,
it's a roadmap to recovery.
Yeah, it's a roadmap.
Do you know what the titles are
No, it's just a 12-step AA program. Everyone knows it who's
what
gone
I'm going to do in the show notes, I'm going to put a link there to anyone who's interested in looking what the 12 steps are, reading about it. So I'll put a link there that'll direct you straight to something online that you can read what the 12 steps, what they are.
There is something you have to bear in mind. When it says God, it was written at a time when it was put your trust in God, but it's actually of who you consider a higher power in your life. It can be the guitar in front of you is your person you want to.
God can be anybody, can't he?
Yeah.
Because he is in his all. He's everybody.
Exactly.
That's true. That is very true. So one thing before we let you go, Indiraa, I want you to tell you, because you've obviously met some characters while you've been there.
Yeah.
So quickly, in the next 2 or 3 minutes, tell us about some of the characters you met.
In the psych unit, there was a lady who repeatedly stripped herself naked and licked the windows of our room because she wasn't allowed in. She thought she was a queen. She wrote her version of the New Testament all over the walls and the doors of the of her room, and they had to repaint. And every day you see the poor painting man painting her door because she's written something. And she'd order all this food because she's allowed to. She's a general, and she'd arrange it on her bed and tell us, come, there's a party, and we'd have to stand there because the medicine room is opposite hers. So we'd stand and look at all this food on her bed, and she'd put everything in the shape of a cross always, because she said that she's taking over from Jesus.
Yes.
So that was one person. Another person was a lady who came in 3 days ago who thought I'd stolen her glasses, and she checked my bag twice, and it wasn't there, and I was mortified. And then she went and rechecked. Rajiv's coming in. Sorry, we're coming to the end of this. She rechecked my room as well. She took someone into my room and checked my room, and then she found it in her bag. So there you go.
And what about, quickly before you go, was it Jay, the Indian gentleman?
The Indian guy who
neurotic nut
came in there and pretended to have shakes. He pretended to sweat. He pretended to go catatonic.
These weren't milkshakes, by the way.
No, and he pretended to be catatonic, and then it all disappeared.
You called him the rattlesnake, didn't you?
No, I did not.
Jay the rattlesnake.
No, we're supposed to confront each other and, say, you're supposed to. If there's something, you have to say it. And I said, Jay, you're pretending. There's nothing wrong with you. You just want to go. Will you stop ruining it for me? This is my last week. I want to take in as much. 20 minutes sitting there and watching you. But I didn't hear him call me. I didn't hear him. I didn't see him. I said, then how do you know he called you?
so, pulling him up. Yeah. So finally, before you go, one last word for Billy.
Billy?
New Zealand? Australian?
Hey, Billy Bonkers, I love you.
Bonkers, there you go. She was another character.
Oh, she was the best.
Yeah.
Billy Bonkers, I love you. And Kate, you're the best. And, all three of you. Gracie, hang in there, girl. You're going to do this.
Great. Dear, it's absolutely fantastic to have you back. Everyone, I can say, is going to be delighted that you're here sitting in the studio with me today, and that you're going to be obviously...
One more thing. Yeah. Dan, don't think I forgot you, okay?
Dan the man.
He's very cool.
Okay.
Danny, hang in there, boy.
So until the next time, folks, from myself and the wonderful Indiraa, who we are so excited and delighted to have back in the hot seat. Till next time, Indiraa.
Bye. See you guys soon.
Bye-bye.
Take off your hat, kick off your shoes. I know you ain't going anywhere. Run around the town, singing your blues. I know you ain't going anywhere. You've always been a good friend of mine, but you're always saying farewell. And the only time that you're satisfied is with your feet in the wishing well. in the wishing well.
Well, folks, on that note, that's where we're going to leave it for today. Hope you've enjoyed the show as much as we have, and we look forward to bringing you more of the latest news and hot topics surrounding mental health on our next show. Remember, new episodes of the Mad Podcast drop every Sunday at 6 p.m. Episodes are available to listen to on Spotify, Apple Music, and of course, the Musicians Against Depression website, an online toolbox that contains a wealth of information, essential reading and links relating to mental health. As always, if you or someone you know would like to join the conversation, either in studio or remotely, email us at musiciansagainstdepression@gmail.com or visit the MAD website at www.musiciansagainstdepression.uk for further info. All links, including social media, are provided in the show notes. And remember, no problem in life is insurmountable, and help is just a conversation away. Until the next time, from myself and the wonderful Indiraa,
Take care.